There ain't no future unless we build it now. Unless we build it now. United States, Africa, we salute ya. A new state of mind, I introduce ya. Close your eyes and visualize the rise of a new paradigm. Solar powered skyscrapers.
Welcome to the Africa Must Unite podcast, a podcast dedicated to inspiring African people worldwide to rise up, organize, and struggle for Pan-Africanism, a unified, liberated, socialist Africa, the only permanent solution to the exploitation and oppression of African people, no matter where they happen to be born or happen to live in the world. Now please, welcome the hosts of Africa Must Unite.
Africa's future is now, so get ready.
Greetings. I'm Brother Maurice.
And I'm Brother Neil.
This is Africa Must Unite podcast, and we are the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party. We have some important dates this month on October 22nd, 1851. One of our great pioneers, Sojourner Truth, spoke at the Women's Rights Convention in one of your towns, Brother Neil, Akron, Ohio. Recently, on October 7th, 2023, the militant wing of Hamas launched a massive military operation into Israeli territory, shooting thousands of rockets into Israel in response to the exploitation committed by Israel on Palestinians through the occupation of their land and through violence.
Let's see. This month, our theme is Youth, the Spark of the African Revolution. And we said in our calendar, history has repeatedly demonstrated that the youth play a key role in providing the spark to revolutions throughout the world. During the development of this intensifying class struggle, the youth, particularly students, develop a close relationship between themselves and the working class and peasants that help set in motion the increasingly militant action in the form of strike, demonstrations, and boycott that culminate in the seizure of power by the people. The Youth Student Worker Peasant Alliance has been shown to be the catalyst for successful revolutions throughout history. This process has been the case especially true within the African world, beginning with the Haitian Revolution, the modern world's first true revolution. There, the overwhelmingly youthful enslaved population not only overthrew their French overlords, but defeated each of Europe's three most powerful armies. In Africa, the student generation of the 30s and 40s led the Pan-African inspired first wave of independence movement of the 1950s and 60s. The first wave of Pan-African independence leaders led by Kwame Nkrumah later influenced and trained the next wave of youth who came to lead the armed national liberation struggles of the 1970s and 80s. Some of the youth trained in Ghana as young pioneers, such as Lamine Janga, came to the U.S. to help organize a new generation of Pan-Africanism. In the U.S., African college students of the 1930s and 40s formed the Radical Southern Negro Youth Congress, or SNYC, a socialist-oriented organization that created trade unions, organized strikes and boycotts, and registered voters. The veterans of this movement helped to train a new generation of activist youth within the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC, which fought for democratic rights for Africans and later issued the call for Black Power. Youth activists from SNCC and Revolutionary Action Movement, RAM, led by Muhammad Ahmed, began the initial organizing of the Black Panther Party, which another generation of students, Bobby Steele and Huey Newton, were to lead to worldwide prominence. The veterans of SNCC, such as Kwame Ture, Mukasa Rick, Bob Brown, helped to introduce a new generation of youth to Pan-Africanism. Today, youth in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Haiti, Brazil, Nigeria, South Africa, France, the U.S., wherever the action is hottest, are leading struggles against neocolonialist and capitalist exploitation and oppression. It is our task to introduce this new generation of youth to Nkrumahism so that we can make the final push towards Pan-Africanism the permanent solution. We must do as Nkrumah said, noted, on our youth depends the future of Africa and the continent's total liberation and unity.
Brother Neil, what do we mean by the spark of the revolution?
Well, what we mean is that, some time ago, Frantz Fanon said that each generation of youth must come to deal with the situation that confronts them, take up their legacy, or betray their legacy. That is, each generation faces a question of the work that has been left undone by the previous generation. Each generation does some work, and then as that generation moves on, the next generation must rise up to continue that work. And not simply to continue the work, but to give the work, as we call it, a spark to push that work to a new heightened and higher sense of urgency and as you might say, radicalism. So each generation has to play that role. We see that as we just mentioned in the reading from the calendar, in terms of in the U.S. the distinction or the movement from the SYNC, which included many socialist youth, African youth, who were actually forming labor unions and so forth. And Ella Baker was a veteran of that movement as a student, and she later came to advise the youth of the 60s youth of SNCC. Later, those youth, as they went up in years, some of them later formed the Black Panther Party, at least one wing of that Black Panther Party, and then we began to see many of them again, Kwame Ture, or as he was known then, Stokely Carmichael, Bob Brown, Willie Ricks, or Makasta Rick. All of them began to form what was known as the All African People's Revolutionary Party, introducing a new generation of youth, not only to Pan-Africanism, but also to Nkrumahism. We also see later that in South Africa, we see similar sorts of development. The ANC Youth League developed after the World War II, and out of that youth league, you got people like Nelson Mandela and Robert Sobukwe. Robert Sobukwe later helped to form the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania, and to put the re-emphasis on Pan-Africanism in that movement. Later, when both PAC and ANC were exiled, and many of their leadership was locked up, and many of their members as well locked up in prison, within the townships, a new generation of youth were born, coming under the umbrella of the Black Consciousness Movement, led in many ways by Stephen Biko. And that Black Consciousness movement got the movement going again, got the demonstrations going again, sparked a mass movement, a truly mass movement, which later took the South African movement, South Africa Azania movement, to a higher level. So we can see that, and we see similar sorts of things in Brazil, throughout the African world. So our youth have played this role over and over and over again.
Wow. Powerful information, Brother Neil. Powerful. So, Brother Neil, my next question to you is, why do youth play this role? Why do the youth play this role?
Well, we sort of expect it in many ways. I mean, in some places in Africa, when they train drummers, there's some essential, I guess what we may call songs that they have to learn, but they expect this these to be played in a different way by each generation. So everybody learns these songs, but they have to be played in different ways. Each generation plays in different ways because each generation has to interpret it differently. One of the reasons for this new interpretation is both the changed conditions that the youth find themselves in, but also the fact that we have new, what we call forces of production. Forces of production are those uh, ideas, new science, new technology. So, for instance, if we look in the United States, in the 60s, when we came to the 60s, we had some things that were not new, but they were now gotten out to the masses in a new way. For instance, we had radio. And in the South, we had many African-owned radio stations. And you had them in the Mid-Atlantic, and you had them in the Midwest. And these radio stations were key in terms of getting information out to people. Out of World War II, we had things like walkie-talkie. And so you could have a demonstration with walkie-talkies, and you could control your demonstration for long demonstrations. You had these walkie-talkies to keep people in communication with each other. We had these powerful, if you know anything about these American cars back in the day, we had these big 8-cylinder engines that would speed up and down the road, and gas was cheap. So you could move quickly to escape the Klan and places like that who were trying to kill you. And you also could move around, take information around, move people around very effectively. We had telephones. Information could be moved quickly. All of this new technology, radio, television, telephones, and television, which the youth knew how to handle because they grew up with it. They knew how to get on the TV, get that message across, and so forth. So all of these new technologies help to, which they understood better, help to get this movement moved, communicated, and knitted together quite efficiently. In the same way, if we look at in this recent upsurge of the Black Lives Matters movement, for instance, another technology, social media, was used quite effectively in terms of demonstration. So you had young people, for instance, a 17-year-old overnight was able to mobilize 10,000 people using this new technology that they had grown up with. So the forces of production help to create this, help to help these things move forward. Also, we have to remember that many of our youth had participated, and many of the people who were not quite youth but were still young adults had participated in military forces, either in World War II, the Korean War, World War II all over the African world, the Korean War in the United States, and they came back with organizational skills. They came back with a broader knowledge of the world, a broader knowledge of how U.S. imperialism was acting out all over the world. So these military forces, people who had military experience, were also coming back with new understands of how do you organize people, how are you able to be disciplined, and how do you move under attack. And so we see many of the young leaders emerging out of that reality. So these are the sorts of things that occur with these forces of production and these changes that each generation brings to the table. And because they understand these technologies and so forth better than the previous generation, they can always help to spark things into a higher reality.
On how you said that the youth use, or to give it examples how youth use the technology of that particular time in connection to progress the struggle. The walkie-talkies, the cars, using cars with the specific motors to get away from the Klan. and using radio stations and also the social media of our present day time. That was a great, great connection, observation. Brother Neil, what are the chances for building a strong revolutionary youth movement today?
Well, the chances are excellent because the youth movement has already begun. The task is how do we take it to its higher level for the Pan-African, for the youth to become a truly Pan-Africanist, Nkrumah inspired and Nkrumah informed movement. We already see all across the Pan-African world, all across the global African world, struggles in places like Brazil, Haiti, Nigeria, South Africa, the United States, Senegal, throughout the Sahelian region. We have seen youth topple Campori, the person who was involved in the assassination of Sankara, of Thomas Sankara. We've seen youth push him out of power.
Right.
We've seen these youth already, massively involved in this push. We've seen youth in this country involved in huge numbers in these demonstrations, the post-George Floyd era, if you want to call it that, in all sorts of demonstration, anywhere from toppling these Confederate statues to forcing the police to be forcing the society to push for more accountability on the part of these police that are operating in our community. So it has been. We've already seen that. The question is, how can the youth become even more revolutionary in the point of view of bringing together the ultimate, right now, at least in this period of history, of the revolution, which would be the total liberation and unification of Africa under scientific socialism.
If we do our work properly, Brother Neil, and understand that it is our responsibility to spread Nkrumahism among the youth, we can ensure that the youth will spark the highest level of African revolution, which can achieve an African union of socialist African states. Brother Neil, I just want to thank you so much for giving this great history of our youth movements and how the youth can spark the revolution all throughout 2023. At times, with the help of invited guests, our focus will be on the 2023 theme of our calendar, African Youth, Caught in the Snares of Capitalism, highlighting the current pitfalls that capitalism places before our youth. But also, we look at the types of positive action that must be taken to overcome these snares of capitalism.
So join us next month when we will discuss short-term and long-term solutions.
Meanwhile, visit our website, PanAfricanRevolutionarySocialistParty.org. Again, the website, our website, PanAfricanRevolutionarySocialistParty.org. Email us at panafricanrsp@gmail.com. And again, our email is panafricanrsp@gmail.com. Like us on SoundCloud.com. Visit us on YouTube, and please be sure to leave comments on our Facebook page. Our Facebook page is at www.facebook.com/PanAfricanSocialist/.
Remember, organization is the key. Join us, the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, or join some other revolutionary Pan-African socialist organization. A union of African socialist states is on the horizon.
On the horizon.
How we gonna make the black nation rise? Gotta agitate, educate, and organize. How we gonna make the black nation rise? Agitate, educate, organize. How we gonna make the black nation rise? Agitate, educate, organize. Gonna organize, organize. Agitate, educate, organize. Gonna agitate and organize. Agitate, harmonize and organize.